What if the woman who built one of the biggest Christian television networks in the world spent her final days fighting battles nobody saw coming? What if the woman who led millions to Jesus couldn't stop the storm brewing inside her own home? Today, we're telling the real story of Joni Lamb. The parts the headlines missed, the warning that was ignored, the dream that came true, and the final moments that revealed exactly who she was at her core. Stay with me, because this one will change how you think about faith, family, and the price of building something for God. From Texas girl to television giant. Born Joni Trammell in Texas in 1960, nobody could have predicted what she would build. She met Marcus Lamb through church ministry. Two young people, one massive vision, zero guarantees. And in 1993, they launched Daystar Television Network with nothing but faith and fire. What started small grew into one of the largest Christian broadcasting networks on the planet, reaching millions of homes across America and internationally through satellite and digital platforms. Joni became the face of Joni Table Talk and Ministry Now. She wasn't just a television host. She was a spiritual mother to millions. A woman who could look straight into a camera and make you feel like she was sitting right in your living room. Her closest friends described her as someone who made everyone feel like they were her favorite person in the room. She loved deeply. She laughed loudly. She texted her best friend at 7 a.m. for coconut coffee and tried to fix the world before breakfast. In her walk with Jesus, her own husband said she would come to him and say, "I need to go sit on Jesus's lap." And she would go, pray, come back singing. That was Joni in her element, authentic, on fire, completely real. When everything changed, then November 2021 arrived, and the world Joni knew collapsed overnight. Marcus Lamb passed away from COVID complications. Her partner, her co-builder, her anchor, gone. And Joni, grieving, exhausted, now solely responsible for a massive ministry with over 300 employees, didn't fold. She stepped up, kept broadcasting, kept believing, kept showing up. Her daughter Rachel later said at her memorial, the calling inside her was bigger than any pain she was feeling. They begged her to slow down. She refused every time. But grief changes people, even the strongest, even the most anointed. And somewhere in the loneliness of leading Daystar alone, Joni made a decision that would divide the entire Christian world. In 2023, she remarried. The man she chose was counselor and author Doug Weiss. And almost immediately, things at Daystar started shifting in ways nobody could ignore. The python nobody wanted to see. Here is the part of this story that will stay with you long after this video ends. Before the controversies went public, before the family war erupted, before the departures, Susie Lamb, Jonathan's wife and Joni's daughter-in-law, had a dream. She saw a massive green python wrapped around Daystar, squeezing, suffocating, separating the family, destroying relationships. And in the dream, Joni stood watching. Susie went straight to Joni and warned her. She said, "Mom, God is showing me a deceiver is coming, a python spirit that will separate this family. We need to be careful about who we let in." Joni dismissed it. Why? Because her friend, Shannon Kelly, had a different dream at the same time. A dream saying Doug Weiss was the one for Joni, that God was bringing them together, that the marriage would be a blessing. Joni had to choose between two dreams, the one that warned her and the one that affirmed her. She chose the one that felt good. Why? Because her friend, Shannon Kelly, had a different dream at the same time. A dream saying Doug Weiss was the one for Joni, that God was bringing them together, that the marriage would be a blessing. Joni had to choose between two dreams, the one that warned her and the one that affirmed her. She chose the one that felt good. And listen, this is bigger than Joni. This is the oldest pattern in Scripture. King Ahab had 400 prophets telling him what he wanted to hear, and just one telling him the truth. He chose the 400, he died in battle. The Israelites chose the comfortable prophecy over Jeremiah's hard truth. They paid for it with 70 years in exile. We will always be tempted to choose the voice that costs us nothing over the voice that costs us everything. When the family fractured, after Doug Weiss arrived, the changes at Daystar were impossible to miss. He began appearing on shows more and more frequently. Major ministry names started quietly walking away. Jack Graham, Jesse Duplantis, Lance Wallnau, the Kuhnemans. One by one, they distanced themselves from the network. And then came the moment that broke everything wide open. Jonathan Lamb, Joni's own son, Marcus's son, was fired, along with his wife Susie, pushed out of the very ministry their parents had sacrificed everything to build. In her final interview, Joni defended the decision. She said Jonathan failed to manage his departments, took 3-hour lunches, ignored problems his department heads brought to him. She said she put him on a performance improvement plan. He didn't improve. The decision was made. She also said something that revealed just how deep the pain went. She said, "I put my happy face on and come to work, but I go home and there are tears. I love my son. I love my daughter-in-law. I love my grandkids. They put me in an impossible situation." That is not the statement of a woman who felt nothing. That is the statement of a mother torn apart by impossible choices. But Jonathan and Susie saw the entire situation completely differently. And the family that had once prayed together, retreated together, and built a ministry together was now publicly destroyed. The final days. By early 2026, Joni was fighting on every front simultaneously, publicly defending herself against controversy, privately battling a back injury that was quietly worsening, the family rift bleeding into public view, the ministry under intense scrutiny. Yet she kept showing up, kept broadcasting, kept believing. And then came one moment that perfectly captured the core of who Joni Lamb truly was. Moments before going under anesthesia for a medical procedure, facing her own health battle, her own fear, her own uncertainty, Joni looked at her doctor and asked, "If you die today, do you know where you would spend eternity?" Before the procedure even started, that doctor rededicated his life to the Lord. That was Joni Lamb. Even on a hospital gurney, the mission never stopped. The gospel never went quiet. The calling never switched. On May 7th, 2026, Joni Lamb passed away at 65 years old. Daystar said she had graduated to heaven and was now reunited with Marcus. Reports emerged that not everyone close to her had the chance to say goodbye, adding one final painful layer to an already heartbreaking story. What the people who loved her most said. At her memorial, the women who
This very special broadcast as we honor the life, the legacy, and the faith of my beautiful wife, Joni Lamb. For decades, Joni has shared the gospel with millions around the world, bringing hope, truth, healing, and the presence of God into homes everywhere. Well, today we gather to celebrate the incredible impact of this woman of God who loved Jesus with all her heart and spent her life pointing others to him. And many of you love Joni, and everyone here loves Joni. And as her husband and friend and lover and just a companion, I can tell you so many beautiful stories. But just real quickly, her relationship with Jesus was real. She'd come to me and say, Doug, I need to go be on Jesus' lap. And she would. And she'd come back and he'd talk to her. And then she'd sing her songs. And our adventures from whitewater rafting to shaking hands with presidents to ministering all over. One thing about Joni is she was always Joni. Yeah. Whether she met you in a mall and you said, are you Joni Lamb? Or she was on a stage of thousands. So I want you to know that woman of God was a real woman of God. And I'm going to pitch it over to Rachel before I start crying. So Rachel, you go ahead.
Thank you so much. You know, my mom taught me so many things through her life, but one of the greatest lessons that she taught me was what it truly means to live mission-minded.
It's okay.
Watching her over these last several months, I marveled at her strength. The calling inside of her was bigger than any.
Walked closest to Joni, gathered around her table one final time. One chair empty. They talked about coconut coffee at 7 a.m., beach toes photos, elevator selfies on ministry trips, a prankster who hid around corners to scare the grandchildren, a woman who loved desserts vicariously through her friends because she never ordered them herself. But underneath all the beautiful memories was a consistent thread. She taught them, don't ever give up on people. Everyone is worth saving. Forgive quickly. Obey quickly. Don't sit on it. Her daughter Rachel described a faith so deep, so woven into her DNA, that no controversy could erase it. And standing watching all of this, you are left holding two truths at the same time. Joni Lamb genuinely loved Jesus. And Joni Lamb made choices in her most vulnerable season that the people who loved her most could not protect her from. Both things are true, and that tension is exactly where the lesson lives. The mirror she left behind. So what is the untold story of Joni Lamb? It is the story of a woman who built something extraordinary for God, who survived storms that would have broken most people, who kept preaching the gospel from a hospital bed. But it is also the story of what happens when grief meets loneliness, when the desire for companionship drowns out discernment, when the affirming voice wins over the warning voice. It is the story of a python dream that went unheeded, a family that fractured publicly, a ministry whose future now stands at a crossroads. And ultimately, it is a mirror held up to every single one of us. Because the question Joni's story is really asking is not about her. It is about you. When the warning comes, will you listen? Even when it costs you something? Even when it challenges what you want? Even when it comes through someone ordinary who simply loves you enough to tell you the truth. Joni Lamb's story is still being written, not by her anymore, but by the people she left behind, and by every one of us who decides what to do with the lessons she left us. Rest well, Joni. Heaven is absolutely richer because you are there. For the rest of us, stay rooted. Stay humble. Stay in His Word. And when God sends you a warning, please, please listen. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. And I will see you in the next one.